You know the feeling, right? It's 11 p.m. You're just staring at your laptop, and there's that deadline just hanging over you. Every single part of your body just feels heavy, like you're completely bone tired. And there's a voice inside you that's just screaming, just close the computer. Seriously, go to sleep. You can't keep doing this. It's that voice of reason, the part of you that knows you are way past your limit. But then another voice, usually a much louder one, just cuts right through it. Nope. Keep going. If you stop now, you are gonna fall behind. You're gonna let everyone down. You'll just prove you can't handle it. It's that same old anxious push that keeps you glued to your chair, even when you can feel yourself burning out. So, for anyone who has ever felt like they're in the middle of this internal civil war, here's a pretty wild idea. What if that conflict doesn't mean you're broken? What if it's actually a really organized system that's trying to protect you, but its strategy is just completely backfiring? Let's dig into that. Okay, first things first, let's get grounded. Burnout isn't just a trendy word for being tired. It is a very real, recognized phenomenon, and it has a formal definition. The World Health Organization defines it super clearly, which gives us a nice, solid place to start. For settlers, they say it results from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. And that word chronic is so important. This is not about one tough week at the office. And it really breaks down into three main feelings. First, that deep, down-on-your-bones exhaustion. Second, you start feeling this mental distance from your job, maybe even getting kind of cynical about it. And third, you feel less effective, like you just can't get things done the way you used to. Any of that ringing a bell? Now, for all of us who really need to know the why behind things, the actual logic of it all, for strategists, this is not just a psychological thing. Chronic stress physically messes with your body's hormones, especially your main stress hormone, cortisol. So cortisol is supposed to spike in the morning to wake you up and then drop at night. But when you're burnt out, that whole rhythm gets flattened out, which is why you can feel both exhausted and weirdly wired at the same time. So all the standard advice we hear is about fixing the outside stuff. Manage workloads, create psychological safety. And don't get me wrong, that is absolutely crucial. But it's only half the story. What almost nobody talks about is the inner story, how we can start to understand and even lead our own internal response to all that stress. And to help us map out that internal response, we are going to use this really cool framework that opens up a hidden world right inside our own minds for explorers. It's called Internal Family Systems, or you'll just hear it called IFS. Okay, so the core idea of IFS is actually pretty simple, but it is a game changer. Your mind isn't just one single thing. It's naturally made up of all these different parts, kind of like an internal family. And here's the key. Every single part, even the ones you think are causing all the problems, is actually trying to help you. And look, if you're like the rest of us and you've ever felt completely torn, like one part of you wants something and another part wants the total opposite, this whole idea is going to click for you instantly. So let's meet the team. First up, you've got your managers. These are your proactive protectors. They're the part of you that plans everything, the perfectionist, the one that makes the to-do lists, and yep, they're also your inner critic. Their whole job is to control everything around you to try and stop you from feeling any pain in the first place. So what pain are these managers so busy protecting you from? Well, they're protecting your exiles. Exiles are these young, vulnerable parts of you that are holding on to painful memories from the past, things like shame or fear or feeling rejected. And because those feelings are so intense, the managers work around the clock to keep these exiles locked away so you don't have to feel them. But sometimes an exile gets triggered anyway. And when that happens, a whole different crew rushes onto the scene, the firefighters. These guys are your reactive protectors. Their only job is to put out that emotional fire right now, by any means necessary. And that can look like binge watching Netflix, scrolling endlessly, emotional eating, or even just lashing out in anger. So we've got these three groups of parts, right? Managers trying to prevent pain, exiles holding that pain, and firefighters trying to numb it when it pops up. So now, let's look at how this whole internal system gets completely hijacked in a classic burnout situation. Okay, let's trace the actual cause and effect here so you can see the logic of how this all plays out. For strategist, step 1, a pretty critical email from your boss hits your inbox. Step 2, your perfectionist manager part totally freaks out and convinces you that the only way to be safe is to work a 14-hour day to fix whatever the problem is. Step 3, the sheer exhaustion from overworking triggers a really vulnerable exile part that holds this deep-seated fear of not being good enough. The pain is now up on the surface. And finally, step 4, to just douse that feeling, your firefighter part jumps in and has you numb out with TV until 2 in the morning, which of course means you don't get the rest you actually need. And then the whole cycle starts over again the next day. Now, the most important thing to get here is this. That cycle is not a moral failing. It is not a lack of willpower. It's actually a sign that you have a really powerful protective system that's just been shoved into overdrive by all this chronic stress. And if this sounds familiar, believe me, you are not alone. It's a super common pattern for ambitious, driven people. For social smarts, the system is trying to keep you safe, but its methods are what's causing the burnout. So if our parts are the ones running the show and burning us out, how do we actually change that dynamic? Well, this brings us to the most hopeful and powerful part of this whole entire framework, finding out who is supposed to be in charge. IFS believes that underneath all the noise, all the chaos from your managers and firefighters and exiles, there is a core self. This self is your true essence, and the amazing thing is, it can't be damaged. It is the calm, compassionate, and confident leader that your whole internal family of parts has been waiting for. And the self has these really distinct qualities, known as the 8 C's. When you're connected to yourself, you feel things like calm, real curiosity about your parts instead of judging them, and genuine compassion for why they do what they do. The most reassuring thing is that this isn't something you have to build or earn. It is a core resource that is already inside you, just waiting for you to access it. And this really shows you the long-term goal perfectly. The strategy here isn't to get into a war with your inner critic or try to banish your procrastinating part. The real goal is to learn how to access your core self and then begin to lead all of your parts with curiosity and compassion. When you do that, they can finally relax out of these extreme protective roles they've been stuck in. So I just want to leave you with one final thought to explore. What if the parts of you that you have been fighting your entire life, that inner critic, that perfectionist, that part that just wants to numb out, what if they aren't actually your enemies? What if, once they finally feel safe and understood by you, they actually hold the keys to some of your greatest gifts and your biggest strengths? This is a really different way to look at our inner world, especially when it comes to work. And we all know somebody who feels like they are just in a constant battle with themselves, someone who is probably on the fast track to burnout. Sharing this explainer with them could be a huge help. For social smarts, it might just be the map they've been looking for all along.
If this touched your heart, please subscribe, like, and share it with your family. Save this for more meaningful content ahead.